What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on JDH Aquatics, where we do anything fish tank related in my apartment while I'm in college. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. And I know I say that in almost every video, but today it's actually kind of different than what I normally do. Today we are going to be going over some aquariums on Pinterest. Yes, Pinterest, where all the moms go to get inspiration. Pinterest is also for people that need creative ideas, or if you just want to spend money for no reason. But occasionally I come across some amazing things on Pinterest, such as these aquariums that we're gonna look at today. This is a part 1 series. I'm sure I'm gonna do more videos on this. We are gonna be looking at just some awesome tanks today, so get ready. Now, I am going to save the best for last, but that doesn't mean the other aquariums aren't just as great. It's just the last one's kind of got that awe factor. So with this first one, I would kind of consider it more like a fish room. As we can see here in the middle, there is a nice island style aquarium. It looks like you can see it from all 4 corners, which I would assume there's a center overflow of some build, an all around great looking tank. And then in the back you can see a couple more aquariums, more lagoon frag style. Nonetheless, everything looks very neat and tidy, very kind of like lab style, which I love about this look. Just makes it look very clean and neat. And like I said, everything's white, everything kind of matches. Looks like there's a nice couch so you can view your aquarium in all of its glory. There's shades on the lighting as well, or I guess reflectors, so that there's not a lot of light pouring out. And yeah, the stands are enclosed. The stands are actually super interesting. It looks like you kind of pull them out maybe to access the bottom. Doesn't look like the most user-friendly, I guess, but nonetheless, very clean setup. Scrolling on to the next photo, we get a closer look at the actual tank. It's an SPS dominated aquarium. I think this thing was featured on Reef to Reef as well, but a huge Duncan colony it looks like there in the front corner. And then we get a better look kind of at the overflow. It actually does look like it's more pushed towards back corner. Some T5 lighting over it. I've never run T5 lighting over my aquarium, but every time I see it, the colors it looks hard to beat. I don't know if we're gonna do ratings on these aquariums. Maybe I'll include it and then we'll see how it goes in the next episodes. But out of 10, I would probably give this a 9. There's not a lot I would change. The room itself looks nice as well. I can appreciate a nice interior design, or the architecture, if you will. But yeah, the room looks cool, so I'm gonna give that one a solid 9 out of 10. This next one is one of the strangest reef tanks I've ever seen. And I say that because of the design of the aquarium, which it looks like an in-wall tank. It's got 2 drop-offs. So it's got like a main looking aquarium on top with the drop-off obviously right in front. But then on the right side, it looks like there's a second drop-off in almost like a 90-degree bend, unless it's a completely separate tank, but I don't see how that could be. It's packed with live rock, and at the top it looks like it's packed with coral. There's a few tangs in there. It doesn't look like there's like a mass amount of fish. Everything looks healthy. It looks like there's a great blanket of light over this thing. Looks like a custom-made tank, of course. It's got like a crazy aluminum-looking brace around the whole tank. And looks like there's some doors down there that you can access to get to the sump and whatnot, which I'm sure there's a whole separate room for this, so maybe there's just other equipment below it, but who knows. This thing is awesome. I'm not a huge fan of drop-off tanks, I'll be honest with you guys right off the bat. I will give this a 8 out of 10, only because I'm not a huge fan of drop-offs. That's the only reason. Other than that, it's a very impressive tank. Like I said, I'm sure it's custom, which also makes it much more impressive. So yeah, we'll go 8 out of 10. This is probably my dream tank if I ever made a tank this big, only for the fact that I love lagoons, and I would consider this a lagoon style tank. This reminds me of a saltwater petting zoo. Is that what they're called? Like a tide pool touching. This is getting weird. I think you guys get what I'm talking about. That's kind of what the tank looks like. I don't know the gallons. I'm gonna do the math really quick. Okay, so after sitting here for quite some time, like the not very smart person I am, I got the math done. So follow along. If you're not that smart, then you'll probably get it because this is like caveman style math. So bear with me here. I would assume this gentleman here in the photo is roughly, we'll say 6 feet for easy math, even though he probably is not 6 feet. No offense to you, sir. But we'll say he's 6 foot for easy math. I believe there's about 5 of him across of this aquarium in its length, which means that's about 30 feet. Now, front to back, it's kind of hard to say. Depth of perception is a little hard to guess, but I'm gonna go ahead and just take a rough estimate that the depth is about 1/3 of the length. We'll just say about 10 feet. Height-wise, Mr. Green's shirt's about 6 feet. It's at about his waist, so I'm gonna say it's 3 feet tall. All right, now we've got 30 feet by 10 feet by 3 feet. But we're gonna break that down into inches. So we've got 360 inches times 120 inches times 36 inches, which equals 1,555,200 cubed inches. If you go on little Google over here, you type in that large number that I just said, cubic inches, and you convert it to gallons, we get a grand total, roughly 6,732.467 gallons. So this thing's about 6,700 gallons, which is a massive aquarium, especially being saltwater. Jumping into the aquarium, it doesn't look like it's got a very tall amount of rock work. There's nothing sticking out of the top. There's not like a wall of rock on the back. But that being said, it's a huge tank, so I'm sure it's got somewhere in the ballpark of like a couple thousand pounds of rock. His floor must be reinforced because that's a lot of weight. On top of the water itself, I'm sure it's a glass aquarium, which is not light. Not glass aquarium, but glass panels. You guys get what I'm saying. It doesn't look like there's a lot of fish in there, and it looks like there's no coral in there, so I guess I wouldn't call it a reef tank. I would try to throw as much lighting metal halides that I can over this thing so I could put coral in it, but I'm sure that's very expensive, so we'll see what he's going for if there's any sort of updates on this thing. Now, this second to last one is kind of a runner-up to the first one because it's almost equally as impressive. It's only not because it doesn't have coral, and I know I kind of just spoiled it for you guys, but it's still a gorgeous aquarium. It's a certain aesthetic that you know the owner's going for, and it fits the room very well. Like I said, I can appreciate a nice interior design, and it fits very well and meshes well with the aquarium. So it's second to last, but it's kind of equal with the first one, and that is this drop-off aquarium, which is interesting because I just said that I don't like drop-off aquariums, but to me this tank is a 10 out of 10 because it's just gorgeous. This thing looks like it's filled with just macro algae and live rock, and it looks like there's a school of one fish, maybe a couple different species of fish, but it's not swimming around with a bunch of different tangs. It's just a nice healthy amount of live rock, a nice deep sand bed, and some good macroalgae at the top. It's got a few plant lights over the top, which I'm sure is growing the algae really well, and the tank itself looks extremely well made. It does look acrylic. The panels look extremely thick, which I don't know, maybe that's just the way the angle of the photo. The stand is cool, it works well with the room, and like I said, it's a very like kind of just unsaturated aesthetic, if you want to call it that. I know that's kind of a corny thing to say, but it looks awesome. Now we get to the last one. I know I've done some talking on these other tanks, but we're really gonna spend some time on this tank because I found some photos of it on Reef to Reef. They're really good quality, and I want to share them with you guys because this tank is insane. Some of you guys might have seen it if you guys are in the reefing hobby, but if you haven't, get ready. So this is what I would call every reefing hobbyist dream tank, along with where it's placed in the home. This thing is, it looks fake, to be completely honest. It looks like it's photoshopped there. The actual house itself, I'm getting huge Florida vibes, and that's because of this huge like terrarium type canopy over their patio. I also would assume that it's warm enough year round for a reef tank to be outside. So I would probably assume this is Florida. Bunch of house plants around it. You guys know I love house plants. And there's even like a couch. Get to a couple other photos. I'll show you guys the best seat you'll ever see in your life. But yeah, jumping over to the next photo. We've got just a different angle of it. It's on this weird like concrete stand. I take that back, not weird. Weird is a cool thing. The stand is amazing. It's made of concrete, it looks like, but it's got a nice little white edge which matches the bottom frame of the actual aquarium. This tank does look like it's made of acrylic, just because it doesn't look like there's any sort of beads of silicone. It's got a mixture of light on the top, but it looks like mostly T5 lit. It's got some supplemental LEDs in there as well, and just a massive amount of houseplants around it. Great combo with having that really clean coral filled reef tank in the middle of a bunch of houseplants. This thing just sets it off. Jumping over to my favorite photo, and my favorite seat that you could ever take is on this chair that's facing the back side of the aquarium, which also has a beautiful clam on the left. It's got a nice toadstool in the center, and it's a great view. You've got plants all around you. You're in this huge like dome terrarium thing that looks like you're in Jurassic Park. There's anemones in there. There's a bunch of SPS, a clam. We've got a nice leather toadstool up front, and it's just a mixed reef. It's a nice mixed reef. Let's zoom in here because this is really interesting. He's got a center overflow, but as you can see in the photos, there's no power heads obstructing the vision of the glass. So he's got all of his flow coming out of that tower. There's probably 6 or 7 tonsies facing out, pushing water. So that's super cool to see that implemented and done so that you're not getting anything obstructed with some power heads on the glass. The last photo is at night where the sun is kind of at its setting point and it's dusk out, and the tank brightens up a lot more. So that's the last photo. This thing is insane. I would love to know what the specifications are on filtration, because as you guys can see, it's just a tower, but then the stand is completely open. So I'm sure it drains down to the basement, or it plumbs to some other room that's close by that we can't see, but nonetheless, it's an incredibly clean setup. The lighting is well done. I'm sure it gets a lot of daylight sunlight as well that's filtered through, and a lot of plants to block out some of that light and make it filtered. This is my dream setup. This whole setup is like, I could just hang out here and just relax. This is really cool. That is all I've got for you guys today. I hope it was a somewhat interesting video to you. I actually had a lot of fun going over those photos and kind of explaining it in detail, because when you look at it at first, you can't really take everything in, but then going over it a second time, you can really appreciate what's in the photo, if that makes any sense. So I had fun making the video. I hope you guys had fun seeing some of the aquariums. Maybe you'll get some inspiration for this. I know a lot of these tanks are like everyone's dream tanks, so shoot for the stars. We can all get there at some point. If you guys want to see another Pinterest style video, let me know in the comments down below. There's a ton of different stuff on Pinterest that we can look at. I thought about doing like a paludarium edition, or maybe looking at some freshwater stuff. Even though we don't have any freshwater tanks, I still like freshwater stuff. So if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments down below. But with all that being said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.